Good afternoon, everybody. This is C. Prophet here with you from Fight Serve Boxing and MMA. Today we have got a legend in the MMA industry with us, and it is a pleasure of mine to be the one to be able to interview him. And man, I am so lucky. I've looked up to this guy for quite some time. I first saw him fight in Birmingham, Alabama back in 1996, if I'm not mistaken. And he might correct me on that, but I believe it was in 96. He went in for, I think it was UFC number 8. He fought Mark Coleman. He fought like Campanella or somebody like that first fight. Is that correct, Gary?
That's correct, 100%.
Okay, that was my. I mean, that's just off my memory. You know, like I told you, I was a boxer, and the UFC thing was kind of fascinating to me because I had watched 1 and 2, and the reason it was because the little man was winning. You know, and that BJJ stuff and. Was kind of took me by shock because, you know, I'm watching guys that I know can box. Or Pat Smith, for instance, you know, he was in 1, 2, and 3, I think, if I'm not mistaken, was a world-class kickboxer. You know who I'm talking about, I'm sure. And world-class kickboxer, and he just couldn't compete with them guys once they got him to the ground, you know. And
yeah.
What I liked about you is you had the size, and Mark Coleman had the size to compete with them guys. Y'all, they couldn't overpower y'all, and I didn't see them submitting y'all as easily as they did them other guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But by the time you got into it, it's kind of like they started putting weight classes together, really, hadn't they, by UFC 8? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I thought so. That was my thoughts exactly. They started kind of putting weight classes together and stuff like that. And I know that, like I said, I watched you in that Coleman fight, and y'all drug out for a little over 7 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. It just like you was just wore out by that time. Is to me. I mean, in retrospect, I don't really, you know, I'm going back quite some time, you know, 20 years ago to remember that fight, but it seemed like you were just more wore out than you was beat. Was that your thoughts, or?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, that was my, you know, my opinion there, right there, and like I said, I want to talk to you a little bit about your fighting career, but I also want to talk to you about the problems that you've suffered since you've left the fighting thing, if that's okay with you. You know what I mean? Because I do like to bring attention to that, because a lot of people don't understand the risk that fighters take, whether it be an MMA fighter or whether it be a kickboxer or a boxer, you know, day in and day out, and every time they step in that ring, their life is on the line. You know that as well as I do. And exactly, and we've got several guys that's boxing today that have actually killed men in the ring. Sergey Kovalov, for instance, he's a light heavyweight champion of the world, has actually killed a guy before, you know. But that goes back years and years ago, all the way back to Sugar Ray Robinson killed a man in the ring. So did, you know, several other fighters from back in the day. Bo Jack was one from here in Augusta that had killed a man in the ring. And I found out something fascinating today. I knew you was a very powerful fighter from watching your fights when you was with UFC, and I watched more of your stuff at Pride than I did with UFC because I was more advanced, knowledgeable wise. You know what I mean? I knew what I was watching then, and you was actually starting to pick up technique more so instead of just using your brute strength and power too. And you really, I mean, that was an impressive thing to me because when you initially come into the game, it was like you was somebody who was just going to, because you was like a world-class arm wrestling champion prior to ever getting into MMA or kickboxing or anything. Ain't that correct?
This is correct, yes. I wrestled for I think 14 years. I was a world champion for 12 of those 14 years.
Wow, Gary, that's amazing. I mean, you're a phenomenal athlete. You're initially from Trinidad, is that correct? Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes.
And you got a birthday coming up pretty soon, don't you? You gonna be 40?
Yeah, my birthday is Sunday.
Yeah, you're gonna be.
I'm turning 50.
I tried to give you 40, Gary. I'm trying to be a good guy.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody will give me 35 on mine. I got a little ways to go. Like I said, I'm 45, but I was telling you earlier. But And, I had a bad accident in 2014, and I got the gym here in Aiken, South Carolina, and then I got our offices is here in Augusta, Georgia. I don't know if you know where Augusta, Georgia is. It's home of the Masters Golf Tournament. It's most prestigious. But, I'm not a golfer. I'm a boxer. I'm a fighter. And you know as well as I do, once a fighter, always a fighter. It's in your blood. It becomes a way of life more than anything. And you'll see on my profile picture on Facebook, for instance, it says you can play football, you can play hockey, you can play soccer, you can play baseball, but you don't play boxing. You know what I mean? And that was a quote that come out quite some time before MMA. And MMA, to me, is even a little more deadly, a little more dangerous, because what size are the gloves that they use in that for sure? Are they 6, 8? Are they 6 ounce, 4 ounce, or what? Do you know?
No, I think they're about 4 ounce.
That's what I
really
thought.
A leather strap over your knuckles.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the hands are taped. They're not taped like they are in boxing, are they?
I'm sorry?
I know they do tape the hands, but I mean, they don't
use... tape their hands. I never tape my hands.
They never tape yours at all?
Well, a lot of people do.
Wow, I didn't know that. I thought they did tape your hands. I didn't figure they used as much gauze, you know what I mean? But I did thought they tape your hands. But, now that you mention it, I can recall, like, when Matt Hughes and stuff, probably, him or St. Pierre, probably the best welterweights, two of the best welterweights UFC ever saw. And I can recall them not having tape on their hands, now that you mention it. But I was thinking, I guess, more the modern-day guy. Maybe there's, I don't know. I watch, I went to UFC 194 because I do these live shows at the end of the thing. And when Conor McGregor knocked out Aldo, and that right there was just a flash. I mean, he hit him on the spot. He hit him dead on his chin like he was supposed to, and knocked him out. But I'd have never thought that fight would go like it did. I mean, Aldo dominated the sport for 10 straight years and was a real good fighter. And which brings me to... You arguably fought the greatest MMA fighter of all time in Fedor Emelianenko. Was he really as good as he looked on tape?
No.
You didn't believe he was?
No. He was only good simply because, for me, the problem that I had, he starts from 0 and he goes to 100%. And he swings with everything he has. And if he covers one of those, then he goes silly. Anybody ever fights like that, as most boxers, they come up with go the jab. They give you throw a jab, and that's how most people fight. They come on, they throw a jab, and just check it out. That's down the water. He comes in, his first shot is for a knockout. His first shot, second shot, third shot, fourth shot, it's all for a knockout. That's how he got me. And with hands swinging like that, you're gonna get something, and person going down. That's what happened.
Is that what happened? Yeah, he did. He didn't seem to me to have a lot of discipline, and I seen that it got exposed. I remember Dan Henderson beat him when he was with Strikeforce. This hadn't been long ago, but Dan Henderson had brought in a striking coach that I know very well by the name of Ronnie Shields for just a short period of time. Ronnie's a world-class boxing trainer. You know what I mean? He trains now he's just training one of the Charlo brothers, but he trains the guy that Deontay Wilder's fighting Saturday night. That's Splilska boy. He trains him. He trains Arizona Lara, which fought one of my fighters, and Paul Williams. I think I told you whenever I was sending you a message, we was talking about getting this together that, I did some stuff for Paul, but, I was Vernon's right-hand man. And I got out of the business when Vernon got murdered because it was a tragic thing, and I said, I'm done. I'm through with it. I have a law license as well. I was an attorney as well. Went to school to be an attorney and all that. So I said, well, I can practice law. I don't have to do this no more. And it just didn't seem right being, at the gym or being around, without Vernon being there, and stuff. And, he's, you hear the term brother from another mother, and white guy and a black guy. Boy, I got the kindergarten picture still today that we grew up best friends. We beat on each other with Montgomery Ward plastic gloves, from the time we was 5 and 6 years old, many rounds in the ring, sparring together. Me and him did, and I truly loved him. I mean, when my son passed away at 12 years old, he was the only pallbearer I had. Neither one of my brothers was a pallbearer, but Vernon was.
Yeah.
He was the one I asked for, and there's relationships you build whenever you're traveling around with fighters and stuff, and especially as an amateur person. In my instance, we traveled with USA Boxing for 6 straight years. We traveled all over the place, and we might take off and go to Yugoslavia. We might take off. We might be in LA. We may go to Youngstown, Ohio. And I remember I ran into Kelly Pavlik up there. He was just a kid, and he was still fighting Silver Gloves at the time. And you knew right then that he was going to be something special. And he talked to me not too long ago about making a comeback, and I told him, Kelly, you're a little old for that, I mean, everybody's not George Foreman. And
yeah.
But and you, who would you say was probably the best guy technical wise that you got? Big Nog was a pretty good fighter.
Well, that's easy. That's very easy. Big Nog. It would definitely be Big Nog.
Okay, that's what
from the time the fight got to the ground, which was almost right away, I was constantly defending myself from being choked or armbarred or all sorts of different things. I was in defensive position. From the time when the fight hit the ground, I was in defense right away.
Oh,
everything
yeah.
I was always taking myself from getting into something.
I don't doubt that a bit. He's had a black belt in BJJ for like 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah.
And you see him fight a lot of fights. Like once he come back to the UFC this last time, I was really disappointed. I told you earlier, I did some stuff with Forrest Griffin, some striking stuff with him, trying to help him with his striking. And the guy, like I said, now that's over he's our national director trainer. And what he does more than anything is everybody that I take in or we sign, and I turn away 3 to 4 fighters a week easy.
Yeah.
And it ain't that I want to do it to them, but it's just that I don't have the time to do it because I devote myself. I go by that gym first thing every morning before I ever go to an office to do anything. I want them guys to know that I care as much as they care. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I stand up and I fight for them with everything I got. And because a lot of people don't understand in this sport the value of a win when you're starting off, okay? I was looking at your record, and your kickboxing record wasn't phenomenal, okay?
No.
No, I'm thinking it was like 12 and 24, something like that. But your knockout ratio was outstanding for the amount of wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, 11 knockouts out of 12 wins. I was like, wow. And I would imagine that some of that had to do with poor matchmaking. Is that true?
I'm sorry?
Would some of that maybe have to do with poor matchmaking earlier on when you first started? Or?
Oh, well, no. The thing about it is that the Japanese people, they love to see they get turned on by when a shark fights a minnow.
Mm.
And
I got you.
Love to see a shark fight a minnow. And I was a minnow, although I was a big minnow. I was a minnow in terms of my knowledge in the sport of kickboxing. And I was a minnow, so they love to see that. And the thing about it is that I was a minnow, and I never gave up. I never laid down. If you didn't get me, I was getting you,
Oh,
I stood in front of you, and I threw out punches like crazy. And I didn't stop. I just kept on going forward, and never backing up. And that's what they really loved about me. So the win-loss record didn't care. They just wanted them to see you. They wanted to see a shark fight a minnow.
I used to call you the 12-volt Energizer battery because you was the big battery. You kept going. I really did. Now, that's when you had come back to K1, if I'm not mistaken. You fought in Pride 1, 2, 3, and 4, something like that.
Yeah.
It seems like. And then you come back to the UFC in 19. Is that when you fought Big Nog?
Yeah, I fought Big Nog. Not in the UFC. I fought him in Pride.
Was it in Pride? Okay, I just got.
Yeah.
I knew it was like 2002, 2003, somewhere in that area. I remember that, and
yeah.
And I figured that you was going to answer that question with he was probably the most technical guy you fought. And you know,
absolutely.
And
without a doubt.
Yeah, he would be like if I was to step in there, and I have, you know, like I said, I never turned pro as a boxer, and I probably could have had a pretty decent career.